students, welcome to the science class. In last session, under the chapter of materials, metals and non-metals, we discussed about the physical properties of the metals, physical properties of the non-metals, chemical properties of the metals and chemical properties of the non-metals, and also we discussed some of the uses of the metals and non-metals. Today I am going to start your another one new lesson, that is nothing but coal and petroleum. So our daily life starts with the water, isn't it? And also we are living with the help of the oxygen which is present in our environment, that is nothing but the air. So water is the most essential material for our life, and also oxygen, air is also most wanted material for living beings and living organisms. So what are these? The water, air, and also when we come to know, when we are going to make traveling, so nowadays the large number of different types of vehicles are present, but that different types of vehicles uses fuels. That fuels are nothing but petroleum, diesel, petrol, diesel, isn't it? But where they come from where we are going to get that products. So what are that products? That will be discussed in the chapter of coal and petroleum. Today in this session we are going to discuss under the chapter of coal and petroleum, what are natural resources, what are the types of the natural resources, and also what are inexhaustible resources and what are exhaustible natural resources. And also we discuss one of the natural resource, that is nothing but the coal, and we are going to discuss what are the uses of the coal, what are the products of the coal, and also in the later on session we are going to discuss one of the most important natural resource, that is nothing but the petroleum, and we are going to discuss what are the uses of the petroleum. So now I start this session with the natural resources, the materials which we are going to use in our daily life, like water, air, land, and also the forest. These are all natural resources. Then what is a natural resource? A natural what is meant by the natural resources? Naturally occurring materials that are useful for human activities are called natural resources. So what are natural resources here? The naturally occurring material, these air, water, these are occurring, we are going to get the materials by nature, isn't it? So therefore naturally occurring materials that are useful for human activities, these are very useful for human activities, and also living beings are called it as a natural resources. Example, air, water, light it is also one of the most important natural resource which we are going to use. And in the natural resources we are going to make mainly two types, that are inexhaustible and exhaustible. So we are going to differentiate the natural resources based on their availability, how much amount of the available they are present in the nature. Based on that we are going to differentiate the natural resources into two types. The main two types of the natural resources are inexhaustible natural resources and exhaustible natural resources. And the question arises in your mind, what is meant by the inexhaustible natural resources? What are the examples for inexhaustible natural resources? The word itself says inexhaustible. Inexhaustible means limitless, they are present in a limitless quantity. So what is inexhaustible resources? These are resources present in unlimited quantity in nature and not likely to be exhausted by human activity. So these resources are present in nature in an unlimited quantity, they are present in a very high percentage, they are present in a very unlimited quantity, and these are not likely to be exhausted by the human activities. By the human activities these are not going to be exhausted, they are not going to be get completed. So that types of the natural resources are called it as inexhaustible natural resources. For example, sunlight, it is one of the most important inexhaustible natural resource. The sunlight doesn't complete, it doesn't exhaust by the human activities, isn't it? So another one example here, that is air. It is also one of the most important inexhaustible natural resource. Then what is exhaustible natural resource? It is very opposite to the inexhaustible natural resource. So what is exhaustible natural resource here? In inexhaustible natural resource, these resources are limitlessly present in the nature. These are not exhaustible, but in exhaustible natural resources, they are present in a very small quantity. What is exhaustible natural resource? The amount of these resources in nature is limited. The amount of these resources present in the nature is very limited. They are present in a very small ratio, and these are get exhausted by the human activities. These can be get exhausted by the human activities. Such type of the natural resources are called as a exhaustible natural resources. Once again I am repeating here, what are exhaustible natural resources? The amount of these resources in nature is limited. They can be get exhausted by the human activities. Such type of the natural resources are called as a exhaustible natural resources. For example, coal, petroleum, wildlife, forest, natural gas, these are all exhaustible natural resources. So under the chapter of coal and petroleum, we are going to study one of the most important exhaustible natural resource, that is nothing but the coal. So these all coal and petroleum and natural gas are formed from the dead remains of living organisms. How they are formed? These coal and petroleum, these exhaustible natural resources, under that exhaustible natural resources, coal, petroleum and natural gas are formed by the dead remains of living organisms. Therefore, these are called it as a fossil fuels. The one mark question should be asked in your examination, what are fossil fuels? So the coal, petroleum and natural gas are formed from the dead remains of the living organisms. Therefore, these are called it as a fossil fuels. They are formed by the dead remains of the living organisms, isn't it? So therefore, these are called it as a fossil fuels. Under that, we are going to consider one of the most important exhaustible natural resources, that is coal. One question arises in your mind, how the dead remains of the living organisms get converted into coal, petroleum and natural gas. That will be studied now. So now I am considering coal. So coal, imagine that how the coal is present, just like a charcoal which is present in your home, the charcoal, but it is very stronger than the charcoal. The coal is very stronger than the charcoal. See, it is hard as a stone. But when you are going to consider a charcoal, it is very smooth. We can break it by our hand. But charcoal is very strong as a stone, and it is a black in color. Yes, it is a black in color. And earlier days, this coal it is used for steam railway engines. In earlier days, the railway engines are run by the steam. In that engines, they are going to use the coal for to produce the steam. So, but in nowadays, the coal is used in the thermal power stations to generate electricity by using its heat. In the thermal electric power plant, they are going to use the coal to produce electricity. But how the coal will be produced, how the coal will be formed, that will be studied under story of coal. About 300 million years ago, the earth had a dense forest in a low-lying wetland area. So you have to remember here, the coal is not formed quickly by the 2 or 3 days, by the 2 or 3 years, or 2 or 3 months. To form coal, it takes a long time, about thousands of years to take to form a coal by the dead remains of the living beings or the living organisms. You have to remember, about 300 million years ago, Earth had a dense forest in a low-lying wetland areas. Earth had a dense forest in a lowland wetland areas, and due to the natural disasters like the flooding and also earthquake, that dense forest will be, that due to the natural disasters like flooding and earthquake, these forests got buried under the soil. What happens? Due to the suddenly the earthquake will be happens, or the high flood will be happen. Due to this, that dense forest will be buried under the earth surface. That dense forest will be buried under the earth surface, and large amount of the soil will be deposited on it. how they, and these forests will be go deeper into the earth. Due to the earthquake, the earth will be divided and all the forest will be goes deeper into the earth's surface, and also large amount of the soil will be covered on the dense forest, that is it is nothing but the on the trees of the dense forest. And as they go deeper and deeper under the earth's surface, the temperature and pressure of the earth will be increases. As the dense forest goes deeper and deeper into the earth's surface, the temperature and pressure is increases, and also they goes around 300 million years ago, and due to the high temperature and pressure, due to the under the high pressure and temperature, dead plants slowly get converted into a coal. These dead plants, the dead plants are nothing but these are comes from the forest, dense forest. That dense forest is completely buried under the earth due to the natural disasters like a flooding and a earthquake. And also how they are going goes under deep and deep inside the earth, the temperature and pressure of the earth will be increases, and due to the high pressure and the temperature, that plants will be get converted into a coal, and that coal contains mainly carbon. You have to remember here, this is the story of the coal. For to convert a plant into a coal, it takes millions of years. I am considering 300 millions of years, you have to remember. So in 300 million years ago, that forest will be buried under the earth's surface, and that can be converted into a coal. For to get a coal, for a new coal, if we are going to get, if we are going to farm, we want to wait about 3 million years for to convert a plant into a coal. So you have to remember it's how much long process it takes to convert a plant into a coal. So, and that coal is mainly contains the carbon. It is a main component of the carbon. The process of conversion of the plants, dead remains of the plants into a coal, that is called it as a carbonization. The process of conversion of dead vegetation into a coal, it is called it as a carbonization. You have to remember here the 2 points are very important. One, it is fossil fuels, and also story of the coal. Under the story of the coal, what is carbonization? 2 marks question will be asked in your examination. What is carbonization? The process of conversion of dead vegetation into the coal. The process of conversion of dead vegetation into the coal, it is called it as a carbonization. So then what are the products of the coal? What are the uses of the coal? So by the industries, the coal will be produced. Some of the uses of the coal, that is they are going to make some of the materials from the coal, that are nothing but coke, coal tar and a coal gas. What are those? What are the uses of these coal products that we discuss now? One of the most important thing of the coal is nothing but the coke. It is produced by the coal. It is a generally tough, porous, black substance. The coke, it is generally looks like it is a very tough and porous and has a black substance. The color of this coke is black. The color of the coal is also black. Therefore, the color of the coke is also black. It is a very tough and a porous. It has some holes inside that coke. So we are going to see some of the pores, that is holes. It is a tough, porous and black substance. It is almost pure form of a carbon. So you have to remember the coke, it is a very pure form of a carbon. The more amount of the carbon will be present in a coke, and it is used for, so what is the use of the coke here? Coke is used for the manufacture of the steel. It is used in the manufacture of the steel, and also it is used in the extraction of the many metals. This coke will be utilized in the manufacture of the steel, and also it is utilized in the extraction of the many metals. So it is uses of the coke. Then another one important product of the coal, that is nothing but the coal tar. The coal tar, it is very familiar. The coal tar, it is used for to make the roads, isn't it? Coal tar roads, the black colored liquid like substance which we are going to see, that will be utilized for to make the roads, that is nothing but the coal tar. That coal tar will be get by the coal. So it is a black colored thick liquid with the unpleasant smell. Yes, you have already the experience. The coal tar, it is a black in color and has an unpleasant smell, and also it is liquid like structure. It has a liquid like type. So it is a black colored thick liquid with the unpleasant smell. It has an unpleasant smell. It is a mixture of 200 substances. You have to remember here, this coal tar, it is a mixture of about 200 substances. We are going to make the coal tar by mixture of 200 substances, and also the products of the coal tar. So when we are going to make the coal tar, we are going to get some of the products. Some of the products are made by the coal tar. So the products they are going to obtain when we are going to make the coal tar, that's are nothing but some of the paints which we are going to use the products of the coal tar. The paints we are going to use some of the chemicals of the coal tar, some of the substance which we get when we are going to make the coal tar, paints, and also the perfumes. These are the some of the uses of the coal tar. And also under one interesting thing here, the naphthalene balls which we are going to keep for to get a production from the moths, that is also one of the product of the coal tar, that also we get by the coal tar. Next, under one important product of the coal, that is nothing but the coal gas. Coal gas is obtained during the process of coal to get a coke. When we are going to make the coke from the coal, in that process we get the coal gas. So it is used as a fuel in many industries. It is a one type of fuel. It is used as a fuel. It has the character like burning, so therefore it is used in the industry as a fuel. So one of the use of the coal gas that is used in many industries as a fuel. So this is all about the coal. So we studied one of the most important natural resource in exhaustible natural resource, that is nothing but the coal. Now I am consider another one exhaustible natural resource, that is nothing but the petrol or petroleum. So petroleum includes all the petroleum products like a petrol, diesel, and also lubricant. So how we are going to get the petroleum, how it is formed, that will be studied now. So the petroleum will be made by the dead living organisms. It will be formed by the dead living organisms under the earth's surface. What happens here, for the million years ago, that living organisms will be buried under the earth's surface due to the natural disasters. The plants are the parts of the plants will be get converted into coal, but the living organisms, living things that which are present on the earth's surface, that will be get converted into a petroleum gas. The petroleum gas. That petroleum gas will be stored in the earth's surface. The earth's surface, the first earth's surface has some amount of the soil is present. Behind the soil we get a water level. So we get a water level, the earth water level, which we are going to call. Below earth water level, we are going to consider these natural gases are some of the coal and petrol which is present. So in between the water level and the rock level, we are going to see the gas and the petroleum. So we are going to get the gas and petroleum by making bore wells here. But you have to remember, always gas is present at the upper part of the water level. Why? Because compared to the water, oil and gas are lighter. The density of the gas and oil is very less compared to the water. Therefore, on the water level, at water surface, we are going to get the oil. On the oil, we are going to get the natural gas. So these are the most important products that we are going to get by the petroleum. So what is petroleum? Petroleum, what it contains? Petroleum contains the most important things that are nothing but the petrol and diesels. These are the most important products of the petroleum, and also we get the most of the important products that are nothing but some of the lubricants and the wax we are going to get by the petroleum. So Vaseline, we are going to see on the Vaseline Vaseline pocket or a Vaseline box, that is nothing but petroleum gel. So that will be comes from the petroleum. You have to remember here. Then what is petroleum? How it comes? So this petroleum word will comes from two words, that is nothing but petro and oleum. So petro means here rock and oleum means here oil. The oil which is present in between the rocks, that is called it as a petroleum. The oil which present in between the rocks, that is called it as a petroleum. This petroleum basically it is a rough oil, that is a crude oil. Generally we are going to call it as a crude oil. This crude oil contains petrol, diesel, wax, lubricants, all and that is kerosene. This petroleum contain all these types of the oils, but that will be get separated by the refining process. How it will be refined? See here, in a refining, it is a dark oily liquid, has an unpleasant odor. Petroleum, it is a dark oily liquid. When you are going to see the crude oil or a petroleum, that is petrol is very different from petroleum. Petroleum, it is a basic oil. Petrol is present in a petroleum. So petroleum, it is nothing but a crude oil. This crude oil, it is a dark oily liquid, has an unpleasant smell. It is a dark in color and it has an unpleasant smell. It constitutes different types of the materials like a petrol, diesel, lubricants, oils and lubricant oils, and also paraffin wax, etc. These all different types of the materials, that is petrol, diesel, lubricant oils and paraffin wax, etc. So these are very important products. So the petrol is useful for the light vehicles like a motorcycle, cars, isn't it? And diesel, it is very useful for the heavy vehicles like lorry. Then we are going to consider railways. Nowadays railways, lorries, and also the heavy vehicles they are going to utilize they are going to use the diesel. So it is another one important use of the petroleum. And also the lubricants it is very useful for to keep the vehicles, to maintain very cleanly the vehicles, isn't it? So we are going to use lubricant. So these can be get by the crude oil, that is nothing but the petroleum. And also in that case we are going to see some of the another products, that is nothing but kerosene and also lubricant oil, paraffin wax. What are the uses here? The kerosene, it is used for to use as a the kerosene, it is used in the homes, that is to prepare the food as in the stove. And also that petrol is used for the some of the vehicles, light vehicles, and diesel, it is used for the heavy vehicles. And these lubricant oils are used to maintain the vehicles. And also the paraffin wax, it is utilized to make some of the waxes, candles, and also it is used to make Vaseline like wax substance. So the paraffin wax, it is used in the Vaselines, and also this wax is utilized for to make the candles. Next, another one important the product of the natural resource, that is natural gas, that will be get by the petroleum, the petroleum layer. So this natural gas, it is very useful here. Why? Because it can be directly, we use it directly. It is a pure form of the petroleum products. So these natural gas will be stored by applying more pressure. Therefore it is called it as a CNG, compressed gas. So it can be stored by applying more pressure, and that can be utilized for home to cook the food, or it is used as the fuel for the homes. Though another one important exhaustible natural resource, that is nothing but the natural gas. This natural gas will be supplied for the homes by the pipes or by the cylinder. So it can be utilized by the human being. But these are all natural resources. As I told already, to farm on natural resources it takes about million years, but these all natural resources are get exhaustible. They can be present moreover about 100 to 200 years, and after 100 and 200 years these are completely get exhaust. So how we are going to control? And also the use of these resources, exhaustible resources, causes it has the bad effects on the environment. You have to remember here, it causes some of the pollutions. It has mainly the carbon as the main component here. That carbon that carbon makes lots of the pollution. So the petrol, that is Petrol Conservation Research Association, according to the petrol conservation research association, for our new generation we have to save the petrol, and these are exhaustible natural resources. They prefer some of the steps to control the use of the petrol and diesel here. So what are the steps they are going to refer? That are nothing but drive constant and moderate speed. You have to drive, when you are going to driving with your vehicle, you have to drive constant speed in a moderate speed. You have to drive in a constant and moderate speed. By making this, we are going to control the use of the petrol. And another one is switch off the engines in a traffic signals. When we are present in the traffic signals, we have to switch off our vehicles to save the petrol, and ensure that the correct tire pressure. We have to check for every time when we are going to drive our vehicles, is it the tire has a correct pressure or not. If the pressure is less, then it takes a large amount of the fuel to run. So you have to check our vehicles, our tires of our vehicles every time when we are going to drive, and also ensure regular maintenance of the vehicle. So we have to use lubricants for to maintain our vehicles. By maintaining these steps, we can conserve these petroleum, diesels for our future generation, because these are exhaustible natural resources. They can be get exhausted, they can be get completed about 100 to 200 years, and so for our future generation we have to conserve these natural resources by referring these steps by the Petrol Conservation and Resource Associations. So these are the most important concepts which we are studying in this lesson, and this completes your another one most important lesson, coal and petroleum. So in next session we are going to see your another one next lesson. Thank you.